You may have heard the term of gaslighting, which describes a type of emotional abuse. The term started in a film in 1944. The discussion was about a husband that tried to convince his wife that she's insane in order to be able to make money. It was obviously all boiled down to the dollar. He was trying to make some money. So he tried to convince his wife that she's insane. What did he do? What he did was, he would go in the middle of the night, he would go to the neighbor's attic, and from the neighbor's attic, he somehow got into his attic without his wife seeing, and he would walk around in his attic and play around with the gas in the attic, which would cause, first of all, noise in the attic, and second of all, it would cause issues with the lighting downstairs in the house. And when he came down, his wife was complaining that the lights were dimming and there was someone in the attic. Maybe it was a rat, maybe it was an iguana, maybe it was some other creatures. And he would continuously do this, and he would tell his wife that you're going crazy. There is no noise in the attic because I don't hear any. And the lights are not dim. The lights are the way they've been all day long. And it's a film which you could watch. I'm not going to steal the whole show from you. So you're welcome to see it at your own leisure. But what's important today to us is to identify this type of abuse, that one wants to rob from the second person's, from someone else's true reality. So you want to rob someone else's true reality. That's abuse. I'm robbing who you really are. And with the time, you could make someone go insane, or at least start questioning themselves if they're fully normal. And you play with their emotions. And this is what this film is all about. So our question today is, if God forbid you're experiencing this type of abuse, what's the best way to respond when you know it's a fake and you know that the person is trying to play with you? How should you respond? Should you call the police? Should you fight them? Should you go with them with logic and explain to them that this is not true and you know their trick? How do you go about it? So we are going to discuss something in today's Torah portion. And from today's Torah portion, we're going to come up with an idea how to go about this concept. So God speaks to Moses and he tells him, go to King Pharaoh and tell him it's time to redeem the Jewish people. Moses tells God, I am not capable of speaking, like we discussed on Shabbos. I'm not capable for this job. I have a speech impediment. I cannot speak proper. As you see here in 1a and in 1b, and Moshe explains to Hashem, I cannot speak. I'm not a good spokesman. I do not know how to give a good speech. Hire someone else that could speak. God says the solution is that Aaron, your brother, is going to be your helper. Moshe will speak once, and then Aaron will explain what Moshe said and elaborate on what Moshe said. But wait a minute. Moshe already gave this speech to God in last week's Torah portion. Why bring it up again? And not only that, Hashem already said in last week's Torah portion, as you see here in text number 3, Hashem already explained to him, you have to hire your brother Aaron to help you. Why do we go through Moshe complaining again? Why is Moshe complaining again here if he already complained in last week's Torah portion? And second of all, Moshe already has the solution that Hashem gave him. Why does the Torah go through it again? Or why did Moshe complain again? And as the Alshich, which is a great commentary that lived 500 years ago in the city of Tzvat, amongst many great scholars, and I think he's actually in Tzvat, very holy graves in Tzvat, he asks this question, why is Moses repeating what he already told Hashem before? Well, the answer is fairly simple. When you look at it more in depth and you see what Hashem told, what Moshe told Hashem in last week's Torah portion, in last week's Torah portion, Moses says, I am heavy to speak. Here Moshe says, I have stuffed lips, which means in last week's Torah portion, I'm hard to speak. In this week's Torah portion, he's basically telling God, I cannot speak at all. So now we understand why Moshe brings it up again. Because in last week's Torah portion, he said he cannot speak well. In this week's Torah portion, he's saying, I cannot speak at all. So the sidekick, which is Aaron, is not going to help. As the Rebbe explains here in text number 5 in a sikha that the Rebbe said back in the 60s. So Hashem basically tells Moshe, as you saw here in text number 3, Hashem tells Moshe, don't worry. I'm going to make you godlike to Paro, and your brother is going to be a prophet. You're going to speak everything I say, and your brother is going to tell Aaron to let the Jewish people go. You are going to basically speak. Aaron is going to be much more than just a sidekick. God adds some inspirational words to Moshe. I made you the Lord on Pharaoh. You're going to speak the words that I tell you. God is not only giving a lesson to Moshe what to do, but he's giving him the power to speak. He's not only commanding, but it's also a promise. I'm going to give you the power. Hashem is giving him the power and the promise. And this is what Rashi says in text number 6, as you see right over here. I am Hashem, and I am worthy to send you on this message. God tells Moses, as you are my messenger, you are equipped with all the tools you need to fulfill this mission. And this is what Moshe says. When Moshe said, I cannot speak, Hashem says, don't worry about it. It's not a problem. Because the mission is so important. God will already find a way to deliver the words to Pharaoh. And more so, with all the message of Moshe and the strength that Hashem gives him, he will not only deliver the words to Pharaoh, Moshe will not only it will not get into details with Pharaoh and to argument. Moshe had one mission: transmit God's words to Pharaoh exactly the way it was said. It's almost like I take this pen and hand it to you exactly the way it is. Nothing changes. And this is the reason that Hashem gave the strength to Moshe to speak. Don't add anything. But wait a minute. If Moses is saying exactly the way God is saying it, what do you need Aaron for? Well, here's the problem. Pharaoh did not speak. Pharaoh did not speak Lashon Kodesh, the holy language. He couldn't speak it. Pharaoh spoke every language besides Lashon Kodesh, the holy language. As we see back in the discussion with Pharaoh and Yosef, that he could not speak Lashon Kodesh. So guess what? So now Aaron comes to the picture to translate what Moshe said and to explain what Moshe said, to elaborate on it. And this is in addition to what was mentioned in last week's Torah portion. Here in this week's Torah portion, Aaron has to translate. And now we can understand what each one respective roles were. But wait a minute. What do you need Moshe for? If Pharaoh doesn't understand the Hebrew language, and he doesn't anyways understand what Moshe is saying, what do you need Moshe for? Why bother with Moshe and go through all the trouble if Pharaoh anyways doesn't understand? So again, if Aaron is going through all the motions, what do you need Moshe for? Well, here comes the heart and the brain of today's class. The purpose of Moshe is not how to speak and not what to speak, but it's to break the Egyptian power. In other words, I am making you as a lord. Moshe is going in to catch the lion of Egypt. Moshe is the boss now over Egypt to let the Jewish people go, to break Pharaoh and the Egyptians. As you see here in text number 9 and 10, the purpose is to break this power of Egypt. Look at this statement. No slave was able to leave Egypt, and all of a sudden 600,000 people left Egypt. How is that possible? So the Hasidic philosophy gives us a greater appreciation of Moses' role. To explain how this is possible and the lesson for our day-to-day lives. The Medrash explains that Egypt is a force of negative energy. It's a superpower of the biggest evil possible. You know, there's certain places today that are extremely evil, extremely negative. And this is what Egypt was. Extremely powerful to the negative. Just like everything in this world has negativity, the reason no slave could leave Egypt is because it was such a negative place. Spiritually, Egypt was a superpower of the negative, strongest negativity possible. According to this, we can understand spiritually, it's not possible to break any holiness. Basically, however holy you are, you cannot break Egypt. However holy you try to be, you will never be able to break Egypt. Even the holiest person like Moses cannot break Egypt. Only God himself could break it. And here comes Moses in the picture. The job of Moses was to be a conduit of God to break Egypt, to bring this powerful single strength of God to break Egypt. And this is what Moses said. How did Moses do this? Through Moses being completely devoted to the words of God. He put himself aside. He's only a conduit of God's will. He didn't think of himself. He didn't think of his speech. He didn't think of his comfort. He's a complete messenger of God. This is the deeper meaning when Hashem said, I will make you to a Lord. The word Lord means godly. Moses acquired the power of God to break Egypt. As the third Lubavitcher Rebbe explains, that Moses had this power that only Moses was able to accomplish. Because he was devoted to God, he didn't have his own mind, he was a complete messenger of Hashem. According to this, we can understand that the problem Moses had that he couldn't speak, it was actually an asset. It actually helped. And the reason it helped was because if Moses was able to speak, and he was a good speaker, and he was able to give over information, then all of a sudden what happens? It's all about me. I know how to speak. I know how to deliver. I'm a good spokesman. I know how to finagle my way through. Then it won't work. Then it wouldn't be a direct message of God. However Moshe would define it, he would still, no matter how he would package it and what color packaging he would put, still an issue because it's still packaged. It's distracted from the actual package. The fact that he couldn't speak at all meant he's not in existence of his own. His personal achievement was, and his holiness was irrelevant. I'm just a conduit of God. Moshe was talking. Actually, God was talking. It wasn't Moses because he couldn't speak. He had an issue speaking. So when he miraculously started speaking, it was God speaking, and then the message went straight through. Now, Pharaoh wasn't able to understand. No problem. Aaron explained it. But Moshe's speech was a breakthrough to break the Egyptian power. As we said before. Yes.
So I might have missed something that you said, so forgive me if you've already said this. But I've always wondered, I mean, God could have cured Moses' speech impediment or whatever it was, and he chose not to do that. But I think also the way Moses grew up as royalty, Aaron grew up as a slave. So I think Aaron was able to relate more because of his experience. Moses could feel, what happened horrible, but he didn't live a life of a slave, whereas Aaron did. So I think Aaron could maybe interpret it more because he had that experience.
And Moses, that's exactly why we hired Aaron, because right. Aaron is the representative of the Jews.
Right.
Moshe is the representative of God. And this happened throughout the entire
God could have cured Moses' impediment, right? But he chose not to.
Right. So the point we just explained was that it wasn't necessary because then it would be about Moses. God wanted that the message should be a godly message. So he needed Moses to have an issue speaking. So when Moses speaks, it's not him speaking, it's God speaking. And that's the concept we just brought out. Yes, he did not want to heal him. Then it's all about Moses speaking and we're missing the point. The point is to have him a hard time speaking. Now he's not speaking, but God is speaking.
It could also be just the look of two people. It looks more authoritative to have two different people there giving the message. If it was just one person, maybe it looked more intimidating to have the two. Like good cop, bad cop is just looking, I think maybe.
Okay, that's definitely. But Kabbalistically, there's a spiritual reason. One was giving over a direct power of God, which would break the Egyptian power, which was extremely powerful. And Aaron would be more explaining it to Pharaoh on his level. Yes, it was definitely more intimidated, especially by understanding the role of each one. Yes, 100%. Now Moshe was 100% devoted to God. Now, let's have two conclusions of this entire discussion. Two beautiful, fascinating conclusions that we come up from this idea. Every one of us has an inner Pharaoh. Our inner Pharaoh is this, Yetzer Hara that tells you in the morning, hey, don't wake up. It's okay. Sleep in a little. It's okay if you don't get up to daven. It's okay if you don't keep kosher so good. It's okay if you don't, go to shul to pray, or it's okay if you don't put on tefillin. It's okay. Every one of us have this inner Pharaoh that wants to keep you hostage, like Pharaoh did to us in Egypt. This Yetzer Hara inside you wants you to be hostage. Our sages call him none other than the Yetzer Hara. Sometimes he takes you and does not let you go for a moment. You feel detached from holiness. You feel addicted to all types of inappropriate behaviors that you know is bad to do. And you start thinking to yourself, I'm doomed. I'm stuck in the hands of this evil inclination forever. I'm not religious, and I don't know if anything's going to change. You feel stuck. What should you do? Should you go into explanations with him? Why it's not good to listen to him with all kinds of explanations? Or should I ignore him? Well, the answer is 100% no. Do not go into debate with him. And the reason is because the voice of the Yetzer Hara is not you. It's not a reflection of who you really are. It's a foreign voice. It's a stranger coming inside your mind and your heart. And he's trying to get you to do bad. It sounds like a comic book, right? But it's true. It's real like chicken soup. It's not fake. This is who he is. But most of it, when you have this voice inside you and it tells you to eat not kosher, it's not you. It's a voice inside you that's trying to mix you up. It doesn't mean if you have a thought of eating not kosher or do something inappropriate, doesn't mean you're religious. It's a test. It's not you. You're being tested. You could plug back into the good right away. This explains us how to respond to the Yetzer Hara and this inner voice. Because it's not you. It's a test. And the best way is not to be scared from this Pharaoh that's inside you, and don't go into any debates. The best example is from the story of the gaslighting that I told you before. Someone knows that they turned the lights off. Someone knows that they were making noise in the attic. The other party starts realizing that this is fake. So party A tries to abuse party B. And when party B starts realizing that party A is being abusive, what do? If you know party A is being abusive, it's not going to help if you start bringing pictures. You start sending text messages and showing them I'm correct. And you start proving it with you hire an attorney and you get the police and all that stuff. No, because the second one is going to continue doing all their shtick and everything. Be strong and say clearly, I know your trick. It's a game, and that's it. Again, they do it again, say, hi, it's a game. I'm not going to fall for it. And keep doing that. And at the end, they will give up. They will give up their hope. Like when you're being bullied, God forbid, the one that's bullying you loves it because you're being affected. Don't get affected. They will stop bullying you. A little light pushes away a lot of darkness. Bring some light. Bring holiness. Bring the Torah. Inspire yourself. If someone calls you and you know it's a scam, you're going to start debating with them. You're going to get nowhere. Solution, hang up the phone. That's it. Move on. The same thing is when this voice comes inside you. As the Alter Rebbe explains in chapter in Tanya, in text number 14, you yell at the Yetzer Hara and you tell him, I know you're here to bother me and I'm not going to fall for it. If you have doubts in the belief in God, it's like a shadow. As you see in this photo, shadows are bigger than the larger person itself. Shadows are larger than the original, than the truth. But there's no substance to it. When there's dark and light together, the shadow looks big. What do? Separate the light from the darkness, and there's no more shadow. The shadow is gone. It becomes nothing. The same thing is when you have doubts in the belief in God. It's not a true existence. Do not be afraid. What you must do is identify them as darkness. Tell it, stop bothering me. Stop distracting me from my belief. And then they will scatter away. It might come again, but you know how to deal with it. The message is clear. When the Pharaoh inside you starts making you crazy, take out your inner Moses and scream at him and tell him clearly, I will not listen to you. And we all have this Moses inside us, which is the next message. Just like you should not evoke yourself to this, connect with the inner Moshe that's inside you, which will give you strength to overpower the negative forces. You could tap into the true Moshe. Who's the true Moshe? It's the extension of the Moshe in every generation. The tzaddik of the Rebbe of our generation. Through connecting to the Rebbe, we receive the strength to overcome the Yetzer Hara. And by the way, in every generation, we have the tzaddik and the holy man of our generation. It might not be physically alive, but by connecting to the leader of our generation through studying his Torah, through fulfilling his commandments, through doing everything he told us to do, we connect with him and he will help us overcome our Yetzer Hara. In practical terms, it's hiring your mentor. A rabbi, someone holier than you, someone greater than you. Even a rabbi needs a mentor. You have to plug into this because that's the concept. Every one of us could be a follower of the Rebbe, of a Rebbe. We already started taking these steps, how to get rid of this evil inside us. The way we've done it is right now by studying Torah. You all came to a Torah class and you're studying what the Rebbe is teaching. And through this, we're already connecting with him. What I'm trying to bring out is, of course, we have to pray and say Tehillim and ask God to help us that we shouldn't get caught by this evil inclination. We shouldn't get stuck with him and he shouldn't inspire us. But at the same time, we must realize it's very important. Connect with a higher leader. And they will help you through this struggle and through these events. Because on our own, it will not be able to be accomplished. On your own, you will never be able to succeed. The only way to succeed is by connecting with higher power. And then through this, you will be able to be redeemed from our Yetzer Hara, which is our personal Pharaoh. And just like Moses didn't get into debate, he just said it the way it is. And Pharaoh listened. Ultimately, he led us out of Egypt. So too, don't go into debates. Open a Chumash, open a Tanya, study something, and this evil inclination inside you will automatically disappear. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you all on Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi. Good night.
Okay. Sei gesund. Thank you.
Yeah.